Released September 26, 2018 for Rift and Rift S, and March 2022 for the Quest 2 by developer and publisher Team Space Bullet. Vox Machinae puts you in the shoes of a new recruit at a galactic mining company on a planet called Topaz, where you pilot various mechs referred to as grinders to get the job done.
My name is Volu, Basic Logical Human Engine. I am a trial AI buddy that Horizon Corporate is testing on randomly selected employees.
You start out as a miner who's quickly promoted to security detail. This is one incredibly ambitious title, for better and for worse. Thank you to the developers for the review key. Let's get to it.
Another attack is being reported at the refinery. Patching you through.
I don't play all games I receive for reviews to the end, but it's something I do my best to accomplish, whenever possible. And in the case of a title such as this one, a complete playthrough of the single-player campaign was necessary to form a proper opinion and deliver an accurate review. To play just an hour of the single-player campaign would be a grave injustice. Not to the developers, as this game has garnered high praises from not only casual players, but all of those large YouTube reviewers as well. So the devs are good, but I strongly believe, based on what I've seen for myself, that a lot of you guys simply played maybe an hour of the campaign and dicked around with friends in the multiplayer for a couple of hours, because all isn't well in paradise. Vox Machinae is an ambitious title. Perhaps overly ambitious, as many aspects of this game proves that it fell victim to its own ambitions on several counts. This is not a bashing, as I see the greatness or potential greatness here, but although a good entry, Vox Machinae falls short in quite a few places. Let's start with the story.
So, you're looking for a story, eh? I've got a few of those under my belt.
Like I said earlier, you're a new recruit for a small mining company called Horizon Corporate, who mines in a solar system called Ceres. This company conducts its mining on various planets within the system as needed. You start out as a rookie miner, but soon after getting started, on your first shift, a crazy incident goes down. A miner apparently loses his mind, kills another miner, proceeds to wreak havoc on site, gets put down like a wild dog, and shortly afterwards, based on your actions, you're promoted to a security post, as the security officer before you got killed in the rampage.
Oh, is that the new security team member we've been hearing about?
On your first shift as Horizon Security, you witness some random attacks, and basically, you spend the rest of the game trying to figure out who's behind these attacks.
Screw Frank's orders. Come on, we're following these suckers.
The story really isn't much. It unfolds in a real dragged-out, slow-burn kind of way, which ultimately never amounts to anything grand. It's told through in-game actions as well as a narration by your team captain. Now, I'm not saying the story was trash, as not all stories need to be some save the world, save the universe affair. Other things happen in life. I get that. However, the story really wasn't that interesting or entertaining. I saw where the devs were going with it. I see how it all ties together and sends a message not only about the cold, calculating nature of large corporations and society in general, but also the whole an AI can have a heartbeat as well. But it wasn't told that well, with pacing issues and an overall unbelievable G-rated Nickelodeon feel to it. It just never quite grabbed me, and was one of the main reasons I was eager to see the credits roll long before they did.
Horizon is constructing several high-powered cannons on Talc's surface to better defend from threats like we saw on Topaz.
Visuals. This isn't a pretty game, not by any stretch. No, I never played the Rift versions, and I am aware of the sacrifices devs need to make in order to port a title to the Quest. And relatively speaking, this is a pretty beefy port, especially from a small indie team. So I'm not really complaining, I get it. With all that said though, ugly PS2 textures and all, I do respect the attention paid to detail. Your mech and pilot are quite detailed. It's more the environments that took the biggest hit. Other than really low-res looking textures, there are constant pop-ins and texture loadings at every step. It must truly have been a struggle bringing this over to the Quest.
Now I think it's time we got ourselves out of here. Trevor should be able to deal with the rest.
More on visuals. In between missions, you go back to your base of operations, your transport ship, and you're able to interact with your NPC crew members. But these crew members, the character designs are just jarring. I mean, take a look at these NPCs. First up, everyone, including the female characters, look like they're wearing jock straps. Then the teeth. Hey, maybe it's just me, but do these NPCs not seem to have like twice the amount of teeth regular persons have? Come on, man. That looks way more than 32. And during my playthrough, I heard them make mentions of Earth, so these guys are supposed to be human.
Anyway, Officer Nebery wants me to test you for any brain damage. Can you please find the wrench in this room and bring it to me?
Then, let's take a look at these creepy animations. I mean, the way all the humans move in this game is just weird. But this one guy, Hans, the tech who sounds like a weird mashup between Crocodile Dundee and Christopher Walken.
I'll set them all to 5. That sounds reasonable, right?
And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not one of those reviewers whose gimmick is to take potshots and make fun of people's work. I abhor cynicism. I'm being serious here. These animations are just wrong, and I really don't get if they're like this for some technical reason involving budgetary constraints, or if they're an actual design choice. But when speaking to this one guy Hans in particular, with his weird voice and accent, it just makes the animations even more disturbing.
Pilot, it's up to you to help your AI adapt to the changes. Things will be different.
Then there's an overload of clipping. Clipping, especially in VR, really breaks immersion.
So, you've become fully acquainted with the crew of the Competence.
Again, I'm not trying to take a piss on these guys' work, but I gotta say it like it is. There's no point in sugarcoating anything, no point in polishing a turd. And I'm not saying this game is a turd. It's actually a pretty decent game, despite my observations so far. But it does have its turd-like moments.
Congrats on joining the security team, Pilot. Stop by at any time.
Let's talk audio, sound design. The voice acting is here and there. For some reason, the female voice actors seem to have brought their B-movie A-game. They sound fine. And a few of the male actors as well. But then there's Hans, and a few others who aren't as good. No one is god-awful, but the acting in general is a roller coaster ride.
You stopped on his rampage, even though he did some serious damage to you. Unfortunately, union regulations require you to get debriefed after fighting your co-workers.
The score, sound effects, and ambient sounds are pretty good and fits the game like a glove, so no complaints here.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to the main event, the gameplay. Like I alluded to earlier, this is what made and broke the game all at the same time. Space Bullet clearly put a lot of time, passion, and effort in, and it shows. However, there are many instances where they also clearly misfired. On startup, you're presented with some good options and comfort settings. I consider myself seasoned in the VR arena, but I did experience some nausea while playing regardless. But this was no fault of the devs. They provided us with enough comfort settings to avoid this. I seem to refuse to use most comfort settings provided in any game, but I still got motion sickness. I suspect this had something to do with moving the mech in one direction while aiming with my head at the same time. Perhaps. There's also character customization. I saw where diversity was a priority here, based on gender and ethnicity, even with your crew. It's cool the way your character head moves as you do, but this was a two-edged knife, as the heads of the NPCs were as jarring as the body animations. They would sometimes be speaking to someone else in the room, but they'd be looking at you. It seems like the head turn animations were tied to where you were looking sometimes. So a character may be speaking to someone else, but if you look at them while still speaking to whomever they were, they would then just turn to you while still speaking to the other person. Odd to say the least.
It appears we have made an error.
Can I help you?
Ben from maintenance. Did you happen to be up in the vents and somehow cut the power?
Oh. I could have accidentally turned off the power supply to the lights when I cut the power to the ventilation fans.
There are two modes here. The single-player campaign, which is my main interest in just about any game that gives the choice, and there's multiplayer. The multiplayer is all fine and dandy, and if you're a mech fan, this will give you hours of replayability. But although I gave it a shot, it's just not for me. Word of advice though, if you're new to playing mech sims in VR, even flat, play through the campaign first. Become acclimated. This isn't like Call of Duty, where they advise you to play the campaign first, when we all damn well know no real practice is required to play a Call of Duty game, unless it's your first time ever playing a first-person shooter. In Vox Machinae, well, this is a different beast. It makes your regular shooters seem like tame puppies. There's a lot of getting used to needed here, I promise you that. It's not just what buttons to press on a control pad. This is as close to being in a real mech as any of us will ever experience. This isn't a casual experience, this is simulation level gameplay. You do a lot more than press buttons and move a control stick. As a matter of fact, you barely use the sticks at all. You grab these vertical controls and you go through the motions, the same way you reload in a game like Contractors. No shortcuts here, and if there are shortcuts in the control options, I didn't even check. What's the point of me playing a VR game like a flat game? That's not what I'm about.
Do you wish to proceed with basic training to learn how to operate your grinder?
There's also a pretty detailed tutorial, and the first couple of missions also serve as a training ground. So if you're interested in taking the plunge into true immersion, Vox Machine's got you. If you've never played a mech sim before, you may be turned off at the controls, and how slow and methodical the gameplay is. But I'd say it's worth the experience. This doesn't mean I'm in love with the controls though, far from. I've had some of my most infuriating moments with these controls, and this is what I mean when I say this game is overly ambitious. You're put in situations where the shoe just doesn't fit. There are times when platforming is required. There are these moments when I found myself shouting like a crazy person, I hate this fucking game. Moments when I wanted to toss my headset to the floor. Devs, if you're watching this, I know every other video I've seen about this game gives it glowing praises, 5 out of 5 stars and so on. So let me be perhaps the first to say, platforming, precision, racing has no place in this game.
I will stop you.
Yes, there was a point when I completed a mission and one of my team members challenged me to a race. A race in a slow-ass clumsy mech.
Fly onto the glowing rock to proceed.
And let me get back to the platforming. Come on, man. I find it hard to believe that anyone, even mech game vets, enjoyed this. It was infuriating. Then, there are the stages where you can fly. There's a stage set in space. This was maddening. I commend the devs for the level of variety in this campaign, stage variety and even enemy variety. But those flight controls need work. After completing a mission and heading back to base, I facepalmed time and time again, contemplating what fresh hell awaited me in the next mission. I was surprised and relieved when I saw the final boss was a cakewalk.
No, not the billion.
Pilot? You hear me? Red was blocking our communication.
Now, just to be clear, the controls aren't all bad, and once you're willing to tackle the huge learning curve, there'll be good times, even great times.
That was fun.
Hello, security? Security, can you hear me?
There's some mechs. Well, at least one that's very nimble. I used it against the final boss. It's underpowered, but moves really fast and easy. But the thing is, you can't choose what mech you want to use when. You just have to take what's given to you and make the best of it. And the contrast between grinders, well, sometimes forces the game to become just that at times. A grind, just to move from point A to point B. About this hub area. Well, not really a hub so much, but in between missions, you're able to return to your ship and walk around. In theory, this is great. Gives you a break and something else to do. This had the potential to add character and aid story progression, as there are no cutscenes except for a few scenes where you see your ship move from place to place, planet to planet. But this era ended up being a wasted opportunity. While back at your ship, it would have been great if you were able to do useful things, like visit a vendor of some kind, or a mech tech to upgrade your grinder. Maybe get something that could serve as a repair tool while in the field, but no. No one on the ship really serves a purpose. All you do is talk crap, and you're sent on silly fetch quests and given menial tasks. There's a robot on board who's building some secret project and asks you to fetch silly shit for it.
You have picked up wax paper.
There'll be plans for a party, and although everyone is assigned a task for this party, your job is to help everyone with these simple tasks that they were already assigned to do by themselves. And it goes on like this, a lot of busy work. The ship area is nothing more than padding, but a silly attempt. I like the idea of going back to your ship, and getting mission briefs is cool, but that's not what it's about. You go back there, talk nonsense, do compulsory tasks that make no sense and are unskippable. I would have preferred these sections were totally omitted than this blatant misuse and wasted opportunity.
We found one environmental suit.
You're able to equip your mech at the start of a level. It seems upgraded hardware comes standard as the game progresses. No way to upgrade otherwise. Why not have some kind of upgrade area on the ship? And because you have no way to repair yourself while in the field, let's say you lose a leg, you're left to hobble about at an even slower pace than usual. This is rage-inducing. Some mech veterans may watch this video and say, well, that's how it is in mech games. I can't argue with that really, as I've played very few of these. But here's a suggestion. Have some kind of repair mech on your team. So if you get damaged too badly, they come over and fix you up. Because as it stands, the most you can do if your mech is badly damaged is hop into another mech. But this was only an option once, maybe twice if you count the final battle. Then, the mission variety I spoke of. I'm glad the devs decided to do this, but it sometimes hindered more than it added value. Some of these missions were downright painful to play. They felt like they were a chore than anything else. To be expected to perform stealthily in zero gravity while maneuvering through a space minefield was just painful. In the end, I do like Vox Machinae, but the campaign overstayed its welcome and it hung its hat too far out of its own reach many times. And this was not just because of the tedious levels, but also the padding I mentioned. Remember that race I told you about? I didn't even see the point, because even after losing, the guy who I was racing basically congratulated me for beating him. It's like it didn't make a difference if I won or not, so what was the point? Padding.
You got me good. What do you say about a rematch,
I also experienced several glitches and crashes while playing. Now, this review may seem harsh, but I call it like I see it. Many have praised this game, and I could say, well, maybe I just need to get good. But no, it's more than that. I suspect many who gave this game high marks, other than being fans of the genre, only played the multiplayer or spent no appreciable amount of time in the single player. Because there are way too many flaws here to be giving this game 5 stars. Unless we're simply patronizing the dev team with a pat on the back for a decent effort.
It's fine. Nothing to worry about.
I do respect the effort here, and I did enjoy many things about this experience, but unfortunately there was way too much jank on too many levels for me to be singing praises. I'd still recommend this. As annoyed as I was playing for most part, it's still a solid game, just not one I'd be revisiting anytime soon. And I made a huge sigh of relief when I saw those credits roll. This is one man's opinion, ultimately it's your choice. If you like my content, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's say on the other hand I found a way to piss you off with this review though, as I suspect, based on the generally positive reception this game got, I probably did. Feel free to hit those dislike and unsub buttons with the strength of 1,000 mechs and keep it moving. Either way, I won't hold it against you. Our game is never over.
It's a lot to consider.